So when I met you two, you were still very much road dogs. You were traveling constantly, it seemed like. In fact, I think I was really lucky to get time with you because you're constantly traveling. How has that evolved for you in the time since COVID? And I know you, and I want you to talk about the bus you built, the bus you fashioned for yourself, and what has the road meant to you now in these last few years since we first connected?
Like you said, we made ourselves a tiny house bus to live in on the road during COVID. You know, we had some extra time.
Was that part of it? Was the pandemic part of your impetus, or had you already mapped this out well in advance that you knew you needed this bus?
No, I think that it was very much like the pandemic. I think pre-pandemic, we were just rolling so fast and so hard. It was hard to even look around and think about any other way of doing anything. And so that was like one of the good things that came out of that time, is to have the chance to like look at our life and be like, well, what would make this more sustainable for us? What would make this, what would make it more pleasant to be on the road as much as we are? And one of those was to have a vehicle that we could really camp in on the road or live in that felt like home. And we found a bus. Keith did a ton of research on different kinds of engines and different kinds of options, and then we found one pretty close by.
So talk about that a little bit, Keith, about it's one thing to have the idea, hey, let's make things more comfortable on the road. It's another to, fashion a bus from virtually scratch that's going to work for you. Were you out of your element in a way in doing this?
Initially. It was a process of learning as we went. YouTube is a wonderful thing. I will say that.
Is there a video how to build a tour bus?
Oh yeah.
There is.
There's many videos.
Yes.
So it's knowing which to actually believe, because we all know, YouTube, every video you see is the veracity of his ironclad.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there.
So now I want to tell the audience that the road comes very naturally and easily to both Sparrow and Keith. Keith, for a number of years, was hopping freight trains in a sense and playing music and traveling the country by train. And Sparrow did some of that, as well as she was a circus performer traveling with the circus. And yet you both met in Asheville when you were stationary. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I was stationary-ish.
Keith was living here for like a couple months.
It was like
on
2
his way to
months.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
So it was just serendipity, timing-wise, that you happened to both be planted at that time. Talk about the instant, or how you found a musical kismet together, because you're meeting all kinds of people. You're touring and traveling together, or traveling separately constantly. What was the spark between you two musically that you felt, oh, we have something here?
Well, we came kind of from a similar background. We had a lot of friends on the road that we all played music together. So we played similar styles of music, kind of obscure folk music, whether it be old time or Eastern European music or early swing music. Finding somebody that did all of that and liked all of that was kind of rare. What do you want? Anything to add to that?
Well, did you find the same thing, Sparrow? Were you more steeped in the local scene or regional scene than Keith was at the time? Were you going to jams? Were you playing out? What were you doing before Keith came into your orbit?
I was in a band at that time, but I was also I was recording a solo album. I had always been in bands where I had just written like 5 times as many songs as everybody else, and they were always kind of like collective bands with multiple songwriters, and so I had to kind of wait to bring my songs forward until everybody else brought a song forward. And I finally I was like, okay, I have like 3 albums worth of materials. I should make 1. And actually, when Keith and I met, I had just had a guitar player fall through for a recording session that I was doing, I think like maybe 2 days later or something like that. And, we met at this musician house and we jammed a little bit, and I asked him if he wanted to play guitar on my record. And so that was like kind of how we started
So,
playing music
so
together.
Keith, you came in sort of as a hired hand in a sense.
Yeah, I was kind of filling in, and you were mostly wrapped up with your solo record at the time, right? Yeah, I believe. And
When did you start writing together, and how did that?
it was sort of
coalesce?
it was a process of kind of meeting each other halfway where we were in our lives. I was full blown traveling at that point, aside from the pit stop in Asheville, of course. But I went back to New Orleans for the winter. But the meeting was, had such a strong impact on me that I couldn't stop thinking about Sparrow, and we kept talking probably
Every day.
pretty much every day. Yeah, and
And-
eventually we kind of figured out that we had to be together and make music together, and I ended up moving back to Asheville,
How do
settling
you
down.
how do you think you stretched each other or challenged each other musically in ways that you would not have done on your own?
Well, Keith made me start practicing with a metronome.
Really, were you all over the map in your timing?
I don't think it was that bad, but it wasn't. I wasn't paying that much attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that like Keith really kind of kicked my butt to become more professional in a lot of ways. I'd always played music and loved playing music, but hadn't necessarily taken it that super seriously or even really considered it as a like legitimate career choice. I'm from a punk subcultural background where like you're not supposed to make money off your art. You're supposed to wash dishes for the rest of your life.
As
you know?
as an ethos that you were holding tight to that.
Yes.
Keith, why, given that you're this sort of itinerant kind of underpinning to your life, what do you owe wanting to be more professional to?
I think I just wanted to be a musician. I worked on farms. I did work like conservation work in the woods. I did some hard labor stuff. And I was like, I don't actually want to break my back for a living. I want to make art. This is something that I feel like I'm good at and I can offer the world. And I just kind of made that decision, early on.
Did partnering with Sparrow kickstart that into another gear in terms of thinking, oh, this can be something that we are offering that people will really take to, in a way that maybe the music you were doing previously, you weren't finding that kind of traction?
Yeah, I think that the music we made together was pretty special and had more potential than mine alone,
Talk about the music, talk about the creative arc from the music you made in your early years to now this new album. Because to me, when you listen to the new record, it's a self-titled album, it's their fourth record. And there are a lot of similarities to my ear to your earlier music. And yet some of the lyrics speak very much to the now, or at least to the recent. Talk about how you see your creative arc over that time.
Well, one of the big differences, I think, between our current record and some of our earlier records is that we like to play a lot of different styles of music. We're songwriters first and foremost, but we are also instrumentalists. And we love traditional music, a lot of different kinds. And we used to just play all of it under the Resonant Rogues banner. So some of our earlier records there'll be like a kind of a Egyptian sounding tune, and then a Django sounding, French sounding tune, and then a Appalachian tune, all kind of right next to each other. And what's happened in the last few years is that we've started separate bands that focus on some of the different styles of traditional music that we love. So we have a Balkan brass band. So now that's where that end of our influence lives over there. We have a swing band. That's where we play traditional swing over there. And then Resonant Rogues has become much more kind of like focused on our songwriting and also our sense of place of where we live. We live in Marshall, North Carolina, and out in the mountains. And we
And
live
you
in
built
Southern
your own
Appalachia.
house too, right? Didn't you?
We're in the process.
You're still
Yeah,
in the
we
process.
live in-
This is a long process.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah,
about
so
that.
it's so the bus was kind of a stepping stone to that. And I want to just preface the bus thing with my favorite doodle as a child was drawing built-in furniture. I have always been like weird in that way. I've like always wanted to do something like that, like, and got to like finally like design something and then see it to fruition. And I cannot wait until we're to that point in our house build when I'm actually like making the cabinetry, because
Yeah.
there's
were-
a lot of process before that.
We were starting to talk about the new record, and one of the things that really kind of wowed me about what you do, you really kind of jump from a lot of different styles. I hear 50s doo-wop in there, and some kind of classic barn burning, bluegrass, and some weepy, sweet embers of Southern Appalachian music. And yet not that I hear, but I read in your lyrics, and I want to point out the song. There's a song called 93,000 Miles. And here's a lyric from that song. 93,500 miles, bound to hit a bump in the road. Got 99 questions in 2 bad directions. How the hell am I going to get home? Tell me that at least this isn't some nod to Jay-Z's 99 Problems.
After I wrote that line, I'm like, that's going to be always, like, people are going to mention that forever. But
So you thought of that after you wrote the
yeah,
lyric.
but, we wrote that song in the moment. We had just broken down on the side of the road in Wyoming, and the exact odometer reading was 93,500 miles. And really the song is about those moments in your life when you hit a bump in the road. And so it came to us really quick. It was our first co-write.
After 10 years of
Wait,
playing
your
music together.
first co-write?
Yeah. We write our songs separately.
Is that intentional? Because you just think there's going to be too much friction?
No?
It's just always been that way, but we're starting to do more co-writing
Yeah.
after all these years.
I think both of us are very personal songwriters. Like there are songwriters who it's like a deep craft, that like, and it's storytelling and all that kind of stuff. And we do some of that as well. But yeah, I think for both of us, most of our songs come from like a very deep personal place, and co-writing can be kind of weird when you're writing about the inside of your head.
I think in this case, it was a very specific feeling that we both felt.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are there other songs that were shared experiences?
I mean, Leave the Path that we just played is kind of a shared experience that we've both had. It was thinking about like how when you've been through really like hard traveling, it does kind of give you a sense that you can do anything because you've been able to exist off of almost nothing, off of very little. We had this conversation the other day in the coffee shop, like when you have existed off of very little income and, been figuring out your way in the world, it becomes easier to take leaps of faith than if you're used to being super comfortable forever for your whole life,
Yeah. You have another song on your record. I think it's the album closer. It's called What Happened to That Feeling. And I want to read some lyrics here that I think are very telling about this song. We've been working so hard that our hands are worn and rough. And it's an understatement saying times they have been tough. And our romance can get buried under piles of life's hard stuff. Oh, what happened to that feeling? Will it ever be enough? I can't imagine you writing those lyrics without talking to each other about what that means to put them into a song for everybody.
I don't think I asked. Sorry.
So, Keith, were those from you?
no,
Because Sparrow sings the song. I didn't know. So
Those are my words.
they're your
Yeah.
words. Were they from something that you'd been percolating on for a while?
They were just from, I think it was a moment where we had given ourselves a crazy deadline on our house build before having to leave for tour. And we were working all day, every day. And for like 7 days a week, 10-hour days for like a month, trying to get our basement dried in time to hit the road for months of tour. And we were like, we can't not finish this. And yeah, just think that's hard on any relationship, and we work really hard. Like, we are working class musicians as far as like, and I've had some conversations recently with a fellow musician whose family kind of was disapproving of his profession, thinking it wasn't like a super valid way to make a living or wasn't real work, but it's real work. And then the addition of some of the, the additional stuff we have. And we chose to build a house, and we are very, very fortunate that we were able to come into ownership at all. But home ownership is like feels close to impossible for a lot of people from our generation, especially living in a place like Western North Carolina that just has really high housing prices. And ownership aside, even that, like the just renting it's very, very difficult to get by.
What made you, in a sense, double down on living here? You have the bus. Both of you are used to being on the road. Cost of living, obviously, is a challenge. You wrote about it. So what is it about this region and making music in this region that keeps you here, at least anchored here as a coming home point?
Well, I have a teenager who I co-parent. His dad lives in Emma, so right outside of Asheville. So for me, that's my number one commitment in life. So that's.
Has your child gone with you on the road?
Yes. The tour joke was, I hate it.
Yeah.
Because every fun thing that we did, he'd be like, maybe it'd be different.
How old
now.
is he now?
He's 15 now.
Does he still travel with you, or is he
He
beyond
does sometimes, yeah. He mostly goes with us kind of we'll go to our extended families, then he'll stay with them, and we'll tour regionally around those places.
Keith, when Sparrow was writing that song, did you know it was acute to your experience with the home? Or was there something broader here that we need to check in with each other? Was there something along that line?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a reflection on the difficulties in maintaining a long-term relationship when you're working really hard. So,
Which is most people.
I think it's pretty
in the world.
relatable. And I think when, initially the first time I heard it, I was like, this kind of feels revealing in a certain way. But when you think about it being something that pretty much anybody deals, any marriage, it's something that you have to deal with, is just working really hard and maintaining a healthy, loving relationship. So,
has this record represented kind of a new level of being personal in your music? Or have you always strived for that?
For me, it definitely has. Yeah, this record for sure is like another level of personal songwriting. Like I decide, it's not just the fluffy, happy parts of life. It's and not that our old records, I would write about hard stuff, especially, like mental health struggles or stuff that was very felt like personal to me. But then, yeah, this is one of the first records that I feel like we've allowed ourselves to write about our relationship and not been embarrassed or ashamed of that, just knowing that there's a deep power in music that speaks to some universal hard things. And there's nothing wrong with struggling, and there's nothing wrong with, a long-term, we've been together for 10 years and
making music the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's been inextricable.
Yeah.
Your relationship and music. Have you found at times that you've leaned into the music when times have been tough on a more personal level, or vice versa? If the music, things aren't happening with, just financially, sales, crappy agents or, promoters, and the leaning into each other when that's going.
Yeah,
Has that been that
sometimes
way?
just like, let's go on a walk. Let's go on a hike, Let's get away from our career for a minute,
you have a couple songs you're going to perform for us from the record. Tell us a little bit about the songs you're going to perform.
So we're going to do a song called Ridgelines. And that was a song that I wrote when we were looking for property, but hadn't found anything suitable yet. We'd found some things that were near misses and really like honed in on what we wanted. Sometimes it takes us close calls to figure out what is really important. And I wrote the song, and then 2 days later, we found our mountain.
Sweet.
And and the miracle was that we could afford it. So
Yeah, that is a miracle.
it's very, very steep.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, is it?
anybody else would see it and be like, what am I going to do with that? And I was like, walk up it.
If it's that steep, how long are the pilings to keep it
Oh,
level?
the house is built into the hillside. So the first story is a walkout basement.
Oh.
And then it's got 2 stories on top of that. So it's kind of a tower house like Asheville, but it doesn't have oh my gosh, why is my brain?
You mean
it doesn't,
supports, the
yes,
pilings.
yeah.
Right.
Doesn't have, yeah.
What's the second song you're going to perform?
The second song we're going to perform is called Show Me. And that's another one of those kind of like personal relationship songs, but is also just very sweet. And it's about, I think I wrote it after a very like brief end of the evening, hangry spat where we had just, had like a long gig and forgot to bring snacks. And then I walked into the Crow and Quill actually, and there was like a vintage R&B doo-wop rock and roll band playing. And it's like, I just need to say how I feel. And how I feel is, why can't we just be nice to each other? Why is it so hard? Let's just be nice to each other. Like
That seems to be the message we need to send to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, everybody, thank you so much. Sparrow and Keith, Resonant Rogues, have a couple of songs they're going to perform for us. Thank you.
If nobody was looking, who'd you wanna be? Tucked away from the world, just you and me. How would you spend your lifetime if all expectations fade? If no one would see it, what would you make? I'd build a cabin on a hillside. I cleared some brush to make a trail. I put some forts up in the trees so all my friends can visit me, and build a fire for telling all our tales. If nobody was listening, how would your song sound? What do you play for yourself when no one's around? If you never took a picture, what would make you smile? What do you do that makes life worth the while? I spend my summers walking ridgelines with my banjo on my back. Spend my winters staying in, learning tunes and golden afternoons, and spring would find me heading down the tracks. If nobody was watching, would you dance for fun? Pretty much always. If no one ever saw your body, would you still run? Do you walk a straight line? Are things as they seem? Or is your head like mine still full of dreams? I need you to show me that you love me. If you want me to believe those pretty words, when you don't show me that you love me, you had best believe it fills my heart with hurt all through the day, into the night. I wanna treat each other right all through the night, into the day. If we try, then we can always feel this way. I need you to show me, don't just tell me. Love is something that you have to feel. But if you show me, please still tell me. I need both to believe that this is real all through the day, into the night. I wanna treat each other right all through the night, into the day. If we try, then we can always feel this way. I need you to show me, oh my baby, what you really think this love is worth. But if you show me, oh my darling, then I will always be a girl all through the day, into the night. I wanna treat each other right all through the night, into the day. If we try, then we can always feel this way. Oh, if we try, then we can always feel this way. So let us try to always feel this way.